On the 7th anniversary of my relationship with my partner, I came to a heartbreaking realization. I was merely a placeholder for her true affection. The haircut she requested mirrored that of her actual crush. The outfits she selected for me were identical to his style. Over the span of our 7 years together, she had completely neglected my personal preferences. Initially, I assumed she had simply forgotten what I liked, but the truth was far more painful. She believed my tastes aligned perfectly with his. This clarity struck me on my birthday. She presented me with a cake that I knew was his favorite flavor. When she received a phone call, she instantly abandoned everything to take it without a second thought. After 7 years, I finally saw the truth. Our entire relationship had been a facade. It was time for me to step away and make space for the person she truly desired. Later that day, the photos from the previous night were still displayed on my phone screen, showing conversations between my girlfriend Emily, whom I had loved for 7 years, and another man. That man was her actual crush, the one who had always occupied her thoughts. In a moment of despair, I called my mother. "Mom, regarding that blind date you arranged for me, I've decided to go through with it," I confessed. Her reaction was one of surprise. "You finally realized the truth, but why the sudden change? You used to say you only wanted to marry Emily. What changed?" Reflecting on my earlier stubbornness, I felt foolish. Sensing my silence, my mother quickly diverted the conversation. "That girl is about to return to her home country soon. In about 2 weeks, I'll set up a meeting for you two." Just as I ended the call, the sound of the door opening came from the hallway. Emily walked in, smiling, carrying the coolness of the outside air and a box containing the birthday cake. "I waited in line for a long time to get this for you. Let's see how it tastes." I took the cake from her and opened the box. As expected, it was matcha-flavored. Without a word, I closed the box. Emily sat beside me, linking her arm with mine. "Is something wrong? What's making you upset?" I lowered my head, attempting to conceal the tears welling up in my eyes. For 7 years, I had repeatedly told Emily that I disliked matcha and preferred vanilla cake. Yet she never remembered. She consistently bought me matcha desserts, assuming it was my favorite. I had thought it was merely forgetfulness, or perhaps the only available option. But 3 days ago, everything changed. Emily had left her phone outside while taking a shower, and a Twitter notification had popped up on her screen. "Matcha cake is such an amazing creation. So delicious," the post read, from someone named Leo. Her crush, the one she had always held dear. My heart raced as I searched for Leo's account on my phone, scrolling through his optimistic and charismatic tweets. He was charming, well-traveled, and full of life, planning to return soon from abroad. His name was Leo, strikingly similar to Emily's name. As I delved deeper into her Twitter activity, everything became clear. Emily didn't enjoy sweet treats, certainly not matcha-flavored ones. Leo, however, loved matcha, which explained why she had been buying me matcha desserts despite my objections. She had never called me Leo. She always referred to him by his name, revealing that she had been infatuated with him all along. She had mistaken my preferences for his, never noticing the gradual shift in our relationship as she continued to pursue someone else. "If you're feeling down, a little sweetness might lift your spirits. This matcha cake is really good. Try it," Emily suggested, trying to comfort me as she always did. The weight of realization crushed my heart, and I couldn't hold back any longer. "I hate matcha," I exclaimed. Emily froze, surprised by my sudden outburst. Just then, her phone rang again. She answered, her face lighting up with joy. "That's wonderful. I'll be right there." Without another word, she hurried out, leaving the living room empty. Whispering to myself, I noticed it was my birthday. I had a strange feeling that something was amiss. When I checked Leo's Twitter, he had just posted an update, an airport photo with the caption, "Finally back in the country." Today was the day Leo was returning, and I, the substitute, was about to fade away. I spent the entire night packing and organizing my belongings. Clothes, books, and all the little things I had accumulated over the years. I had always considered this place our home, a sanctuary we had both worked hard to create. But now, everything needed to be cleared out to make room for the man Emily truly loved. The next morning, Emily returned home, drenched from the rain. She glanced at me, briefly avoiding my gaze, and offered a nervous smile. "Why are you up so early? Didn't you get some more sleep? The morning air feels nice." She nodded and said, "Okay, I'm going to take a shower first." I stopped her. "Emily, what's going on? You came home very late last night." Her response was rehearsed. "Oh, I had to work overtime at the office. A client gave us some unexpected tasks, and I was up all night." I knew that when people lied, they often added unnecessary details to make their story seem believable. Emily was usually succinct, even when comforting me. I decided to ask, "You were wearing a jacket when you left last night. Where is it?" She visibly relaxed and smiled. "Yeah, I left it at the office. Don't worry, I'm not cold." "All right, go ahead and take a shower." She moved closer and gently rubbed my hair. "You're worried about me, my love." I turned my head to avoid her touch, standing by the window. "You should go. Wearing wet clothes isn't good." Her hand paused midair as she looked at her damp shirt and laughed softly. "You don't like seeing me wet? I won't get you wet. Don't worry." The sound of running water came from the bathroom. I had never been inquisitive about Emily's phone. She had never been secretive, always leaving it out in the open. The screen displayed a message. "Leo, have you made it home?" And my heart sank. "Leo, I just washed and hung up your clothes." I wasn't too surprised when she left last night. She'd been in a hurry, her face flushed, and I had already sensed something was wrong, but seeing it firsthand was different. I picked up my phone and opened Leo's Twitter. He had just posted a video. He was holding Emily's hand as they ran through the heavy rain. In the end, they clasped hands, and Emily laughed. A carefree laugh I had never heard before. Emily emerged from the bathroom, drying her hair. My phone buzzed with another notification. She quickly took it from my hand with surprising force. After responding to the message, she seemed to realize her overreaction. "The client was rushing me to send something," she explained awkwardly. "Did I upset you?" I interrupted. "It's fine. I'm going for a walk." She grabbed my wrist as I turned to leave. "Are you mad at me?" I replied, feeling like I had no right to be angry. Emily glanced toward the corner of the living room where large trash bags were piled up. "Did you do a big cleanup last night? Why so much to throw away?" "Yeah," she smiled. "Don't worry about it. I'll handle it later." "Emily, have you noticed anything missing from the bathroom?" I asked. "No, why?" "Is the shower gel finished? I can go buy some." I simply nodded. In the bathroom, our towels, toothbrushes, and slippers were always themed as a couple's. Her towel was pink and mine was blue. Last night, I had packed up all my things, intending to throw them away, but she hadn't noticed. Maybe she was too distracted or never truly cared. It no longer mattered. My time with Emily, our home, it was all over. Over the weekend, I accompanied Emily to her classmates' reunion, secretly curious about Leo, the man she had mentioned so often over the years. What kind of person was he? When we arrived at the venue, the room was already buzzing with laughter and conversation. Emily's friend Olivia greeted her warmly. "You're finally here. Leo is already here. You're about to get what you wanted." Emily seemed flustered and quickly interrupted Olivia. "Stop saying that." Olivia laughed and retorted, "How is that stopping? We all know how you feel about Leo, don't we?" At that moment, Olivia noticed me standing aside and asked curiously, "Who's this?" Emily awkwardly introduced me. "This is my boyfriend." Olivia looked shocked. "Your boyfriend? When did that happen? Didn't you always say you were waiting for Leo?" Emily didn't respond directly, and the atmosphere grew tense. Just then, a handsome and charismatic man emerged from the crowd. It was Leo. His voice carried over the noise. "Who has a boyfriend?" Olivia quickly waved him over. "Come here. Emily says she has a boyfriend." "I don't believe it," Leo replied, giving me the opportunity to face this legendary figure. He was indeed extraordinarily handsome. No wonder Emily couldn't forget him after all these years. Leo looked at me with a mix of skepticism and hostility in his eyes. "Emily, is this really your boyfriend?" he asked. Emily hesitated, looking troubled. I spoke up. "I'm just here to pick something up. I left it here before." Emily seemed to relax, but the surprise in her eyes remained. Olivia, curious, asked, "What did you leave behind?" I casually answered, "Cufflinks." Olivia responded, "The cleaning lady already took care of it. You can ask her." I nodded and turned to leave. Olivia continued teasing Emily. "Are you trying to make Leo jealous? This guy just came to pick something up and you're using him like that." She then turned to Leo and said, "Look at what you've done to Emily. It's been years now. You should give her some kind of response." Leo's tone softened. "Emily and I are just best friends. Stop worrying about us." I stopped walking and looked back. Emily was staring at Leo, her gaze suddenly distant. She gave a bitter smile and echoed his words. "Yeah, we're just best friends." When Emily returned home that evening, I was watching the news. She smiled lightly, though it seemed forced. "When did you start caring about current affairs? You never used to be interested in these things." I gave a faint smile and replied, "Maybe because there are too many false things in life, and I wanted to find some sense of reality in the news." Emily's eyes flickered slightly, as if she sensed something was wrong. She sighed softly and spoke slowly. "Leo, you might be misunderstanding something. My relationship with Leo is purely friendship. Olivia tends to speak without thinking, so don't take her words too seriously." "Oh, I see," I responded calmly. "Yes, exactly," she emphasized. I turned to look at her, my eyes filled with curiosity. "Do you really think men and women can have purely platonic friendships?" Emily froze for a moment, her expression growing more complex. I noticed her thoughts seemed to drift towards Leo, even though everyone knew how she felt about him. She had silently waited for Leo all these years, but to him, she was always just a best friend. He enjoyed Emily's care, but had never given her a clear response. How should I define Leo's feelings for Emily? Just then, Emily's phone rang, interrupting my thoughts. She glanced at the screen, her face changing slightly before she grabbed her car keys and started to leave. "Leo, She hesitated. "Let me guess. Something urgent at work again," I said calmly. "You go ahead, don't let work get delayed." Emily seemed like she wanted to say more, but the phone rang again. Leo's voice came through the receiver, sounding a bit anxious. "Emily, did you see my message? Come over quickly." "I saw it. I'll be there soon," Emily responded. Before leaving, she said to me, "Leo, don't overthink things. Just get some rest. I'll bring you your favorite matcha latte tomorrow." She was still fixated on what Leo liked. I nodded quietly. As she rushed out, I looked around the empty room, feeling a strange sadness swell in my chest. I realized with a pang that even when she said, "Leo," I wasn't sure if she was calling me or someone else, creating turmoil for myself. Despite knowing it would hurt, I couldn't stop checking Leo's Twitter. He was once again sharing sweet moments with Emily. I turned off my phone and closed my eyes. Just then, my phone vibrated with a private message from Leo. "Enjoying spying on my Twitter." I didn't reply, placing the phone face down on the table. But Leo wasn't done. He sent another message. "Aren't you brave? Let's meet. I'll tell you everything you want to know about Emily and me." When I entered the cafe, Leo was already seated there. He sized me up as I approached, sneering. "Looks like after Emily left me, your taste has dropped quite a bit." I frowned. "What do you want from me, sir?" His eyes glinted with amusement, enjoying the control he held over the situation. "You should know. The only reason you're with Emily is because our names sound similar. She sees you as a substitute." "What if I do?" I replied coolly. "All of Emily's ex-boyfriends have had a bit of me in them. As soon as I say I don't like someone, she breaks up with them immediately. If you know how she feels about me, why do you treat her like this?" I couldn't help but challenge him. Leo's smile grew more arrogant. "She likes it this way. I enjoy it too. What are you going to do about it?" I didn't want to waste any more words and started to leave. But Leo called after me. "Wait, if you beg me, I can make Emily stay with you." I stopped and turned to face him. "What do you really want?" Leo's smile was sly. "Nothing, just for fun. Don't you think it's amusing watching a woman dance in your palm?" I ignored him and kept walking toward the door. Suddenly, Leo grabbed my arm. I tried to pull away, but he held on tightly, looking at me provocatively. "Why don't we just wait and see how she chooses?" "Crazy," I muttered under my breath. I attempted to shake off his hand and leave, but suddenly a loud scream erupted from behind me. I thought I had just shrugged him off, but Emily's angry voice pierced the air. "Leo, what did you do?" Recognizing her voice, I knew exactly what Leo was trying to provoke. Emily glared at me furiously, as if I were the most despicable person. I hadn't done anything. Emily's gaze shifted between us, filled with doubt. "Leo," she said pitifully, "it hurt so much." Tears quickly welled up in Leo's eyes. "Emily, why are you only here now?" She almost rushed over, kneeling beside him. "I'm sorry, I'm late. Where are you hurt? My foot hurts so much, it's killing me." Leo sobbed uncontrollably. Emily helped him up. "I'll take you to the hospital," she offered, but Leo still pointed weakly at me, standing aside. I watched coldly as the two of them enacted their drama. The men crying, the woman showing concern. It felt like a staged performance. Even a passerby remarked to Emily, "Your boyfriend really loves you." I felt a pang of frustration, almost wanting to laugh. Strangers thought we were a couple, while I, the true partner, hadn't been acknowledged once. Emily's eyes widened in fury, her anger directed straight at me. "Take out your dissatisfaction on me. Why hurt Leo? If something happens to him, will you take responsibility for the consequences?" I didn't know how to respond. Frankly, this was not something I needed to explain. Leo, lying in Emily's arms, pulled her up gently. "I'm fine. Don't overreact." "Leo, you're just too kind." Emily's voice was filled with affection. The concern in her eyes was unmistakable. "I can't imagine how you've managed all these years abroad, how much hardship you've endured." I didn't want to argue about this farce any longer or watch it unfold. "If you're really worried, take him to the hospital for a thorough checkup. I'll cover the medical fees and lost wages." "I'm leaving now," I said. "Wait," Emily called out. "Apologize." I turned back in disbelief, meeting her cold, menacing gaze. "What did you say?" I asked. "Apologize to Leo. Now." Anger surged through me, making me almost laugh. "Emily, do you want to check the surveillance footage and understand what actually happened before you decide who should apologize? Isn't it you who pushed him? Since you pushed him, then apologize. The one who should apologize isn't me. If you're so upset, call the police." I turned and walked away, hailing a taxi. As I sat in the car, the driver asked, "Hey kid, why are you crying?" I wiped my face, realizing I was already in tears. "I'm not," I replied. "You say you're not." "Did you have a fight with your girlfriend?" The driver pressed. I looked out the window, knowing in my heart this wasn't just a simple argument. The moment she told me to apologize marked the end of our relationship. When I got home, I quickly packed a few things, preparing to leave the place I had once considered a sanctuary. My mother called. "Son, did you buy your flight ticket? What day is it?" "On the 8th, I answered. "Oh, so it's soon. Let me know when you've got your ticket. I'll pick you up from the airport." "It's fine, Mom. I can manage." "Well, it's not me picking you up. The girl you're being set up with wants to meet you at the airport. Let me know if you need anything to stay. I'll prepare it for you in the next few days." I glanced around the empty room. "I don't need anything, Mom. Just prepare an empty room for me." "All right. Take care and have a safe trip." This time, I chose to let go of Emily. I once believed this city was my home, and leaving it would be unbearably painful. But as soon as I boarded the plane, I felt a surprising sense of relief. Letting go wasn't as difficult as I had imagined. I hadn't brought anything except my checked luggage. I took one last look out the window when my phone rang, interrupting the moment. It was Emily. She was still insisting that I apologize to Leo. Just then, the flight attendant reminded me, "Sir, the plane is about to take off. Please turn off your phone or switch it to flight mode." I complied, watching as my phone screen slowly darkened. For the first time, I felt an overwhelming sense of peace. Emily had called several times, but I hadn't answered. She dialed again. "The number you have dialed is not in service," the automated voice said. Frustrated, she hung up, displeased. Leo, sitting across from her, nudged her calf lightly, scolding her. "I was talking to you just now. You didn't hear me, did you?" "Sorry," Emily rubbed her forehead, explaining. "What did you say?" Leo immediately smiled. "I'm sitting right here, and you're still thinking about someone else." Emily hesitated before admitting, "Leo's phone is always on 24/7. He once told me it was in case I wanted to contact him and couldn't reach him, but today his phone has been off the whole time." A sense of unease crept into my heart. What if something happened to him? Just as the thought crossed my mind, Leo's words interrupted my thoughts. He smiled more brightly. "You should worry about him, but you're a woman, so you don't understand men's thoughts. He's probably waiting for you to get anxious and call him to apologize, try to cheer him up, and admit you were wrong. Then he'll start bossing you around from a high position." At that moment, Emily's thoughts shifted and she sneered, "Yeah, what could happen to him? It's just his usual temper throwing a tantrum over something that happened before." She wasn't wrong and shouldn't have to bow down to him for no reason. Leo then casually added, "By the way, I just saw that a really popular milk tea shop opened nearby. You can't order online. You have to line up in person, but I don't want to go out. Can you go buy it for me?" Emily had never refused his requests, and this time was no different. She didn't care about Leo's whereabouts anymore and left to stand in line for his milk tea. At that moment, I had already arrived in another city, eager to get home as quickly as possible without any extra luggage. After disembarking, I took a taxi straight home. As I reached the entrance of my neighborhood, I took a deep breath, feeling as though I had returned to my own world. I told myself, no one will ever be able to hurt me again. Unexpectedly, just a few steps away from my home, my suitcase was snatched away. I chased the thief for a long time, but couldn't catch up. I even got injured while trying to reclaim it. Inside the suitcase were photos with my parents, the most important things to me. Finally, I broke down. I leaned against the wall and slowly squatted down, burying my face in my arms as tears silently fell. My sobs were quiet, but the tears quickly soaked my sleeves. As I wallowed in my sadness, a gentle voice came from beside me. "Excuse me, are you feeling upset? Maybe I can help." I looked up through tear-blurred eyes and saw a soft, kind face. She appeared to be in her early 30s, wearing a camel-colored coat with a delicate silk scarf around her neck. Her appearance exuded gentleness and intellect, and her tone was soothing as she continued. "Don't worry, I'm not a bad person. It's getting late, but if you don't want to tell me what happened, I can help you call a cab and get you home." I paused for a moment. Then, without thinking, I stopped crying and began to pour out my troubles to her. She calmly reassured me, "Don't worry, this place isn't too complicated. If you need, I can go with you to the police. I'm quite familiar with the area." She handed me a tissue and a warm sensation spread through me. She remained patient and gentle, never leaving my side. Seeing that my eyes were still red, she suggested, "You must remember the person's appearance and how they were dressed. How about I take you to the police station to have a look?" Realizing that searching aimlessly was pointless, I agreed to her suggestion and decided to try my luck at the station. With her accompanying me, we arrived at a nearby police station. Time dragged on, and it wasn't until late at night that I realized how much time had passed. Feeling a bit embarrassed, I'd said, "It's getting late. You can head back if you'd like." She shook her head and continued to stay with me. After working through the entire night, we finally found my suitcase. I took the recovered item, overwhelmed with emotion and almost on the verge of tears. "I really can't thank you enough," I said gratefully. "Take a look first. "I'll handle the paperwork," she replied softly. When I had calmed down and was ready to take care of the procedures, I realized she had already completed them and was back by my side. We walked out of the station together, standing under the soft glow of the streetlights. "Thank you for staying with me. Could I get your name and number?" I asked gratefully. As soon as I said it, I realized my request might have been too forward, so I quickly added, "I just want to properly thank you after I've settled down." It was late at night, and I had nothing to give her in return. She smiled lightly, took a business card from her suit pocket, and handed it to me. "It's nothing. Don't worry about it. But if you want to contact me, my details are on the card. Feel free to reach out if you ever need anything." In this era of digital communication, business cards had become a rarity. I took the gold embossed card with both hands, silently repeating her name, Chloe. What surprised me even more was the title on her card, Senior Lawyer. I had always assumed lawyers were aggressive and decisive, but Chloe's gentle demeanor had completely shattered my expectations. Before long, the clock ticked past midnight. At this hour, finding a taxi was difficult, and Chloe suggested, "Since we've exchanged names, we're no longer strangers. I'll give you a ride home." Her every word and action felt as refreshing as a spring breeze, and I readily accepted her offer. She asked me to wait on the curb for a moment while she went to get her car. We talked about various topics, some scattered, but the atmosphere was pleasant and easy. Before long, we arrived at my neighborhood. I noticed that Chloe seemed quite familiar with the area as she drove directly through a side entrance close to the residential buildings. I was curious but didn't ask any questions. However, just as we were about to part ways, a familiar voice called out to us. "Chloe, Lawyer K, how come you two are coming back together?" It was my mother, whom I hadn't seen in a while. I hadn't expected to run into her downstairs with Chloe. "Mom?" I responded, confused. "Do you know her?" My mother nodded. "Of course I do. Chloe is the one who helped me win my divorce case. Without her, I might have only gotten custody of the kids and had to give up some of my assets. Now I've managed to keep most of the property, all thanks to her." After explaining how she knew Chloe, my mother sighed and added, "Actually, I was planning to introduce you two a while ago, but back then you only had eyes for Emily." I awkwardly looked away. That was indeed true. Back then, I was consumed by Emily and never considered anyone else. Now, looking back, maybe the world had been trying to prevent me from making the wrong decision. Chloe smiled and casually said, "I was also busy with cases at the time and didn't have time for personal matters. Besides, if we had met then, it might have been a bit awkward." She skillfully diffused the awkwardness and explained how we had met. My mother only mentioned it in passing and didn't press further. She smiled and invited us. "Before you go out, your dad is preparing breakfast. Chloe, he's been wanting to properly thank you. Since you've helped Leo again, why don't you stay and have a meal with us?" I had something on my mind, but didn't say much. I was supportive of the idea. After all, I owed Chloe a favor and was happy to show my gratitude. However, Chloe smiled and declined politely. "I'd love to try your parents' cooking, but it's already daylight. If I don't go home and change into something else for work, my colleagues will think I've been wearing the same outfit for 2 days straight." For a lawyer, image was indeed important. My mother didn't insist, but asked me to thank Chloe again. As we said our goodbyes, I couldn't help but feel that Chloe had something more to say to me. On the weekend, after a brief rest at home, I arrived at a book signing event in the best possible spirits. As a columnist, a book signing event after releasing a novel was like a fan meet and greet. Most of the attendees were my loyal readers. The line for signing was unexpectedly long. I patiently responded to every fan's request, from taking photos to leaving messages on the book's title page, ensuring each request was met. But after a while, my arm began to feel tired. Just as I was about to sign a book, a delicate hand placed a support tray before me, still labeled with the book's title. It wasn't uncommon to receive small gifts from fans at a signing event, but this thoughtful gesture was rare. I initially thought the gift was from a young girl, so I looked up ready to thank her with a smile. Instead, I found myself meeting Chloe's gaze, her eyes warm and smiling. She was one of my readers. This discovery took me by surprise, and I was momentarily stunned, almost forgetting that I was at a book signing event. Chloe softly said, "You've been signing for so long, your arm must be tired. This hand support will help you feel more comfortable." I tried it out, and indeed, it made me feel much better. Gratefully, I said, "Thank you. Would you like me to write something for you?" "Just write that this book is for me," she replied. Chloe then added, "I originally only wanted to give you the hand support, but since everyone is in line, I decided to follow the customs." Her decision to wait in line helped avoid any possible controversy, but also unexpectedly drew attention. Fans began to wonder about our relationship. Chloe cleverly stood up to explain, "I brought warm milk tea as a thank you gift for the other fans," smoothly resolving any speculation about our connection. I understood her intentions when she passed me a look, and although this wasn't my arrangement, I couldn't deny it publicly. I had to go along with the flattering narrative. As the fans received their milk tea, they started teasing, guessing if we were the prototypes of the male and female leads in the book, and some even asked if we were about to get married. I smiled and clarified, "I'm single right now, and the story in the book is in the past." Over time, Chloe and I became closer. We often made plans to eat out or go shopping, and she took me around, helping me become familiar with every corner of the neighborhood. She asked me if I still harbored feelings for my ex-girlfriend, the one who had once been deeply engraved in my heart. "I've long let go of her," I answered without hesitation, even shaking my head as if to completely erase that chapter from my memory. The moment I decided to leave, I had already moved on. Chloe seemed to breathe a sigh of relief upon hearing this. "So, have you thought it through? Would you consider giving me a chance?" I looked at her and smiled slightly. "Actually, I agreed to have dinner with you because I wanted to see if we could be really happy together," I responded. However, Chloe said something that completely took me by surprise. "Okay, I understand. I'll make sure my niece stops bothering her ex-boyfriend soon." "Is there any connection between these two things?" I asked, confused. A bizarre thought suddenly flashed through my mind. Chloe, Emily. I stared at her in shock. "Your niece? Wouldn't it be—" "Emily." Chloe nodded apologetically, her smile faint. "I should have told you sooner, but I only just confirmed this. I had a feeling about your relationship with her. Realizing the age gap between us, I was slightly stunned." "So, you're her aunt?" I asked. "I knew she had an aunt, but I didn't expect you to be so young." When the age difference relates to a potential romantic partner, it feels more significant. But when it's a family member, it just makes her look unexpectedly young. "Yes, since I'm not much older than Emily, she usually calls me Little Aunt," Chloe patiently explained. "I actually knew about her having a partner, but I didn't know the specifics. My career is based in Haicheng, so I spend most of my time there." I chuckled lightly. "Understandable. After all, she never planned on bringing me home to meet her family. But don't worry, you'll soon meet her partner, the one she's willing to publicly acknowledge." Chloe looked at me with a gentle gaze. "You must have been through a lot." I shook my head, signaling that I no longer cared. "It's all in the past. They made me angry, but I didn't do anything." Chloe tried to force a smile, but like me, it was clear she couldn't hide her emotions. To love someone for 7 years and then discover you were just a placeholder, no one could smile through that. I looked at her seriously. "So, do you still want to be with me now?" She replied calmly, yet with certainty. "Of course. You've agreed to try, and I won't let anyone else have you." In that moment, I felt the warmth of being chosen with such certainty. Chloe asked with concern, "Are you okay? Did this news shock you?" "No," I shook my head. "I was just wondering, if we're together, what will she call me, Uncle?" The idea of shifting roles within the family made me chuckle, and Chloe laughed too. "If you don't mind, you can certainly call yourself that." We shared a smile. That dinner was incredibly pleasant. The rapport between us seemed to surpass that of two people who had only just met through an arranged encounter. It felt more like a couple who had supported each other through thick and thin. When we parted downstairs, Chloe gently said, "My situation with Emily shouldn't affect how you see me. If you have any concerns, I'll find a way to resolve them." I smiled and shook my head. "Your family is something that can't change, but I won't let that affect us." Chloe gazed at me, her eyes shining with determined light. "I won't let the past affect our future either." What I hadn't expected was that Emily would actually come over. "Emily," Chloe began, "you should know my methods. If it weren't for the fact that you're my niece, Leo would have already been my partner." Her voice was calm but firm. With Chloe's words, Emily's fist clenched tightly and swung toward her. Chloe had anticipated this and quickly sidestepped, but her cheekbone was still grazed. The two of them instantly began to wrestle, and the air around us seemed to freeze. The noise from the sudden scuffle caught the attention of nearby residents, including myself. In a panic, I didn't even have time to put on my jacket. I rushed downstairs as fast as I could and shoved Emily aside. With the help of others, the two women were finally separated, both unwilling to back down. "Leo?" Emily called out, her voice frantic. As soon as she saw me, she watched as I walked toward Chloe. I nervously examined the scratch on Chloe's cheekbone, gently touching it and asking, "Are you okay? Are there any other injuries?" Chloe took a shallow breath and said, "It's fine, just a small scrape." Throughout the entire ordeal, I didn't spare Emily a single glance, as if she didn't even exist. Emily touched her own bruised face, a painful reminder of Chloe's retaliatory strike. The pain was sharp and piercing, completely different from what she had imagined. In the past, whenever I was around, my gaze would always fall on her first, no matter where I was. But now, my attention was on someone else. Emily couldn't accept this reality. She took a step toward me, wanting to tell me that she had realized her mistake, but at that moment, Chloe stepped in front of me. I stood still, watching Emily. Her heart trembled, and in a low, pleading voice, she said, "I'm sorry. I know I was wrong. I came to bring you back to our home." This was the first time since we had been together that she admitted her mistake. But it no longer mattered to me. I shook my head, firmly replying, "But we're already over." With that, I helped Chloe and we went back to our home. Once inside, I immediately grabbed the first aid kit, using tweezers to hold a cotton ball soaked in saline solution and carefully cleaned Chloe's wound. Our eyes met and the space between us seemed to shrink. I could clearly hear her breath and heartbeat. In that charged atmosphere, Chloe gazed at me with deep affection. My ears turned slightly red and I felt a bit embarrassed. Influenced by the mood, Chloe suddenly opened up to me. "You might not believe it, but I've liked you for a long time. It's just that Emily confessed first, and you were so in love with her at that time. If your happiness was with her, I would have kept my feelings hidden for a lifetime. But now that you've chosen me, I won't let go." 3 months later, Emily received an invitation to my wedding with her little aunt. It was an exquisitely designed card, and the inside displayed a photo of Chloe and me, our faces full of smiles and radiating happiness. She walked into a bar alone, wanting to drown her sorrows in alcohol. But the alcohol didn't numb her pain. Instead, it made her memories clearer than ever. Friends gathered around her, offering words of consolation. "You've been broken up for a long time. It's time to move on. Your ex is getting married, and life has to go on." "Yeah, that's fate," another friend agreed. "It might be awkward when you meet again, but life always moves forward. If you keep sinking into this, your body will suffer." Each word felt like a sharp needle piercing Emily's heart. She opened a bottle of hard liquor and drank it straight. Eventually, her rationality was overtaken by drunkenness, and she collapsed on the table. Seeing this, her friends had no choice but to rent a room for her at the hotel upstairs. After 2 days of deep sleep, she woke up on the eve of the wedding. Emily didn't dare waste any more time. She immediately packed her things and flew to Haicheng. But when she arrived, the wedding was already nearing its end. In the center of the banquet hall, She saw me exchanging rings with Chloe, sharing a passionate kiss, a moment filled with joy. Emily quietly sat to the side, her eyes filled with mixed emotions. During the toasts, I wore a custom-made suit and raised my glass with Chloe, offering drinks to the guests. When I reached Emily, she lightly raised her glass. "I wish you both happiness." I smiled and replied, "Thank you for coming." She forced a smile and said, "I wish you happiness too." Afterwards, we both turned and continued to offer drinks to the other guests. Chloe stayed by my side the entire time, carefully helping me avoid alcohol, and we both enjoyed the happiness of the moment. After the wedding, we began to plan our honeymoon. Chloe gently asked, "Where do you want to go? My wedding leave is long, so I can go anywhere with you." "How about traveling around the world?" I joked. "Sounds great," she replied cheerfully. "Let's go." And so, hand in hand, we walked toward the future, ready to be happy together forever.